Happy Feng Shui and Chinese Astrology New Year 2019. This presentation is all about Feng Shui and Chinese Astrology. So, can Feng Shui and Chinese Astrology help you with insights for 2019? The answer is yes, as long as you're willing to be proactive. So, do you want insights for health and wellness? Do you want insights for wealth and success? Well, this video is going to be about 45 minutes, and the first part will be Feng Shui, the second part will be Chinese Astrology, and I hope that you'll participate in all of it because I have some slides for you as well. So, for me, awareness is 9/10 of anything. You know, if you think of waking up in the morning and the weather forecaster surprises us with the announcement there's going to be rain, well, I'll probably change my overcoat to a raincoat, grab an umbrella, and anticipate some delays. So that's the reason I do these videos, is to provide possibilities, and so you can make educated decisions about that. So I'm going to start with a slide presentation here. So Feng Shui, it is an 8 Earth year, and 8 means Earth. Chinese Astrology, it is the year of the Earth Pig. So I'm going to talk about what that means, some possible trends, and where we want improvements. I'm going to offer some tips as well. So just a little bit about my background. It's risk management. And so I managed IT, disaster recovery, and business continuity for Bank One. In our heyday, it was 65,000 workstations and 2,500 servers. So I've worked hurricanes and tornadoes, and even ran one of the command centers for the New York terrorist attack. So my full bio is out on the website, so I won't spend too much time on that, but you can always come back to the slide if you would like to know more. We're going to start by muting my phone with the 5 elements. And so fire, and you'll see here the arrows. See, the arrows are going clockwise. Fire gives earth energy. Earth gives metal energy. Metal gives water energy. Water gives wood energy, and wood gives fire energy. You also notice that each one of these has numbers associated with it. So fire is the number 9. Earth, numbers 2, 5, and 8. Metal is 6 and 7. Water is the number 1. Wood, numbers 3 and 4. And then it goes back to fire. It's important to distinguish this because this is classic Feng Shui, authentic Feng Shui, which goes back thousands of years. And so it incorporates formulas and algorithms that diagnose the energy, and that gives us a precise action plan. So I'm going to go through and talk about not only the center's energy, but each of the directions as well. And so I'm going to be talking about, you know, the wood star 3 comes in here and what that means. And also that translates into areas that are going to be supported this year and areas that are not going to be supported this year. And where it's not supported, I'm going to give you some remedies for that. So let's start first by talking about 2019 as an 8 Earth year in a period 8 cycle. So period 8 goes from 2004 until February of 2024. And usually when there's one number, then it sets up a certain type of chemistry. When we get 2 numbers coming together, it definitely deepens the meaning of that. So we have a period 8 and 2019 being an 8 year. Well, when we get two numbers coming together like that, it's too much. And it's the difference of walking on top of the ground, and now you've got mud there and you're trying to navigate through the mud. So that combination of 8-8 in the I Ching represents the Jen hexagram, which means stillness, insurmountable blockages, and impediments. Well, we've already seen that in regards to politics and government. So we had the government shut down here in the US. We have Brexit kind of coming to a standstill in the UK. There's issues in Mexico, there's issues in Venezuela, and so forth. So it affects really everything globally, including the economy. So the economy is going to be rather sluggish. Well, what do you do with that information? Well, be conservative with your purchases. This is not the year to go out and be super extravagant with the amount of money that you've got. It's important to make the distinction that this is about timing. So I haven't done an analysis on your home. I haven't done an analysis on your office building, unless you're a client. But the way the numbers come up, there's one number that is a timing number, which tells us when something's going to activate. So let me share with you an example of where something was activating. I was working on an apartment complex in the Western United States, and there were multiple buildings in this apartment complex. So I did the analysis of every building because they wanted recommendations for the inside, outside, landscaping, and so forth. But one building was a particular concern for me because it was activating with the timing star for violence, and especially with guns and or knives. So I met with the property owners and the building managers on a Saturday, and I explained this to them, and also I'd done the analysis, so I gave them a precise action plan for each building. And then on Sunday, I flew to another state to work. On Monday, the property owner called and she says, you know, that violence energy that you talked about? And I said, yes. She said, Saturday night, there was a confrontation in the building that I said was a problem. And 9 shots were fired. One person, to escape the violence, actually jumped out of an upper level window. But there was a death. And so she's like, how soon can you get back out here? So the series of numbers tell us what's going to happen, who's going to be affected, and so forth. But the timing star lets us know when it could activate. Now, if we have our remedies in place, a lot of times we can avert that. That's what this is about. It's risk management. It's minimize the risks so that opportunities can blossom. So with authentic Feng Shui, we go back to the numbers here, all right? So what are the numbers and so forth? But today is about timing. So I'm using 8 for 2019 that goes into the center. And then the numbers around it shift, and they call it flying stars, which is one of the principles in Feng Shui that I utilize. On subsequent slides, you're going to see south at the top and north at the bottom. So I always get questions on that. And here's why. It's because it follows the Tai Chi or the yin yang symbol. So you'll see here on the bottom of this, it's very dark. And there's the volume of darkness. That represents midnight in the cycle of a day. Well, then a little bit of light. See my mouse here, a little bit of light starts to come in. So this side represents mid-morning. And then the full part of the day, which is all of the white up there, the full part of the day represents full sun, which is normally noon. And then it starts to soften and get darker, which represents evening. And then we come back to midnight. This cycle also applies to the seasons. So the volume here of the black represents winter. Well, and then light starts to come in and spring hits over here. and then we go to full sunlight in the summer months. Then fall starts, and then we go back to winter. So winter is represented by north, so you'll see north at the bottom of the slides, and summer is represented by south, which will be at the top of the slides. Now, going back to this being an 8-year in period 8, so I mentioned this is hexagram 52 Gen, and so the economy is going to be sluggish. It definitely affects governments. It affects politics. It will improve as the year goes on, but don't have a lot of expectations for this year. You know, I see on Facebook and the internet, you know, where practitioners, you know, they're giving you the flowery version of, you know, oh, it's going to be a year of being social and all these groovy things are going to be happening. And while I hope some of that's true, again, my background is risk management. So I look at what are the possibilities so that instead of falling over a crack in the sidewalk, I can walk around it or walk over it. Now, there are certain months that we have to be particularly cognizant of in an 8-year, and those months have a resonance of 2, the number 2 in an 8-year, that months with a 5 with an 8-year, and the months with a 9 in an 8-year. And so those months are February, which resonates at a 2. 2 in regards to timing and construction, not people. If your number is number 2, that doesn't mean that you're a sick person, but from a timing and construction perspective, normally the number 2 means sickness. Well, what do you do with that? Well, if you're going to travel, consider wearing a mask on the plane. Take sanitizer with you and clean the trays, because they don't clean the trays very often. And wipe off the hands, the armrests, and so forth. Take lots of water with you. So there's ways to be proactive when you know that there's a possibility of some type of negative energy. April is a 9-month. 9 represents fire and explosions. So if we look back at the video that I did for 2018, which was a 9-fire year, I said the year was going to have a lot of fires. And gosh, did we here in the US, I mean, especially the West Coast, all those homes being destroyed in Malibu and so forth. So a 9-month in an 8-year, fire and explosions. 8 represents earth changes, more earth changes. So we might see some earthquakes and some volcanic activity. Unfortunately, might see some shooting as well. Then we go to August, being a 5-month. 5 represents breakdown. 5 is also a very heavy earth number, and combined in an 8 earth year definitely means earth changes and earthquakes. And then November goes back to a 2-month. The numbers go 1 through 9. So once it hits 9, it starts to cycle over again. So sickness might surface. Take precautions. Do your supplements. Maybe an exercise regime. And then January of 2020. Boy, that sounds odd, doesn't it? January of 2020 is a 9-month. And because the Feng Shui year goes from February to February, it's still considered to be an 8-year. So January of 2020 is going to be a 9 fire and explosion in an 8 earth changes cycle. Okay. Now, I'm still on the U.S. Geological Earthquake list from my days in disaster recovery. And so I get earthquake notices every day. You can too. Just go out to U.S. Geological and sign up for them. You can also check NOAA, NOAA, which is National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association. But I monitor these. And so, you know, when I talk about the 8 coming up with an 8, Well, I looked back at 2018. I actually researched back 180 years to look at trends so I can make them available for these videos as well as talk with my clients about it. August of 2018 was an 8-month in a 9-year. So 8 earth changes, 9 fire. Okay. It was one of the most dynamic and active months of the year. There were 21 earthquakes in August of 2018 that are Richter scale 6. There were 3 earthquakes Richter scale 7, and there was 1 earthquake Richter scale 8. Why that is significant is because with that much earthquake activity, it can release something called geopathic stress. And if you go out to my blog on my website at intuitiveconcepts.com, I've written a couple articles about geopathic stress and earth acupuncture, which includes not only some scientific evidence, but also studies that have been conducted by doctors, because if you live on or near geopathic stress, it can disrupt sleep, it can cause health issues, it can cause agitation. And this being an 8 Earth year, we are going to experience some earthquakes. And I saw on the news just a couple days ago where, can't think of the name of the fish, but it was in Japan, and it normally is like at the very deep part of the ocean, and it's several feet long. It rarely surfaces, but they have a couple of them have come up, which the Japanese consider to be a sign of a major earthquake vis-a-vis tsunami coming. So a lot of times we can just, once we know that these are possibilities, what the trends are, they just unfold in the news. So an 8 arriving for 2019 has a particularly strong influence on youth, especially young males. And because of the imbalance that's happening this year, we're going to see problems with ethics, competition, integrity, irritability, manipulation, problems with motivation, problems with problem solving. And so when we hear that, and even when I was doing the analysis, a lot of times, you know, I get impressions, and I saw the young men in the Trump family. Probably some secrets to be revealed there, so stay tuned. Now, the numbers that are a little more vulnerable in 2019 are going to be water, which is the number 1, the earth numbers 2, 5, and 8, and fire, because earth puts out fire, right? Think your Boy Scout and Girl Scout days, you put earth on the fire to make sure that it's out. And so people who have birth numbers of 1, 2, 5, 8, and 9 are going to have more challenges. Now, if you go to research this in a book, you probably won't see much about somebody with a number 5, because males automatically translate to a number 2, and females automatically translate to a number 8. But I like to know that somebody is a true 5, because that tells me a little bit more about them, especially with health vulnerabilities and such. The same is true of buildings that are constructed in period 1, which goes from 1864 to February of 1884. Buildings constructed in period 2, which goes from 1884 to February of 1904. Buildings constructed in period 5, which go 1944 to February of 1964. And also buildings in period 8, which I had mentioned is 2004 to February of 2024. And then buildings constructed in period 9, which goes from 1844 to February of 1864. So if you know somebody who either lives or works in a building that falls into one of those periods, they probably would do well to consider having a Feng Shui consult done. Also, buildings that face south, that face northeast, that face southwest, and that face north are more vulnerable, and so they would do well as well to look at having a consult done. Now, I'm going to come back to Chinese astrology. So let's start working through the compass and look at buildings, vulnerabilities. We're going to start with the center. So with it being an 8 year for 2019, the center number, the home number, is always number 5. Well, when 8 buddies up with number 5, it can cause health risks. And because 8 represents the Northeast is the musculoskeletal system. Now, I work with first responders, I work with many physicians, medical clinics. I was the Feng Shui practitioner for the Ohio State University, and so forth. So when you know that the possibility of this year is going to be limbs and joints and arthritis flare-ups, maybe lower back issues. Well, how to use this information is be present, for one. So if you're walking down the sidewalk, don't be looking into your phone. Don't be concentrating on what's going on in front of you. Be present to what you're walking on or surrounding yourself with. And so I'd mentioned, you know, if there's a crack, well, you can step over the crack. If you see a hole, you can walk around the hole rather than, you know, stepping into it, maybe twisting an ankle. So that's the way that you can use this information. All right, so I'm going to go through each direction and let you know what the trend for this year is. And the next slide is going to be, here's some things that you can do about maybe some negative energy that's coming our way. So at the bottom, you'll see north. And north is home of the 1 water star. And this year, the 4 green literary star comes in, which is why that's coded green to represent wood. With that 4-1 combination, it's a good area to spend time this year because it represents peach blossoms. Peach blossoms happens to do with romance, networking, social occasions. So spend some time in the north. It's also good for anyone involved in academia, whether that's a student, teacher, someone who is maybe authoring an article or authoring a book. Spending time in the north is a good place to be working on that. So north, fantastic place to spend time. Next, we're going to go to the northeast. The northeast is the home of the 8 star, known as the money star. And in 2019, the 2 black Jumen star, which is known as the sickness star, comes into the northeast. So northeast of our home, northeast of our office building, is gonna experience some sickness. So spending time there means that you're gonna be predisposed to a little bit more sickness. Well, take some supplements. If your bedroom is in the northeast, maybe consider sleeping somewhere else. If you just can't do that, then I'm going to give you a remedy on the next slide. Then we go to the east. East is the home of the number 3 wood star, but 6 comes in for 2019. And 6 represents the fortune star. So this 3-6 combination actually has an upside. It does have some risk as well, but the remedy is going to help with that. And so the east is a good place if you have a remedy in place. And I'm going to go ahead and give that to you now because the remedy for that would be water. So a water feature or colors that represent water are blue and black. The deep part of the ocean is black, the shallow part is blue. Also, glass and crystal count as water. So putting those items in the east will help. So that will, where I talked about, there's some upside and then there's the flip side. This will help you to achieve the upside, which if you do, then the east is a good place for career advancement or to get acknowledgement, recognition for a job well done, because 3 represents hard work. So if you work hard, you're going to get recognized for it. Then we go up to the southeast. Southeast is the home of the 4 wood star, but this year the 7 fighting star comes in. And the 7 fighting star is coded as red because it's known as the red Pujon star. This 4 and 7 combination is not desirable. So the southeast has robbery energy. Now, robbery can be literal, meaning if you have valuables in the southeast of your home, southeast of your office, there could be theft. If you have windows and doors in the southeast, well, if you're working in a different area of the house or your office building, I wouldn't leave doors and windows unattended in the southeast for this year. So maybe install cameras or make sure your security system is active. It can also mean metaphorical. What I mean by that is robbery to body parts. So the southeast represents the hips, represents the back, represents respiration, allergies, meaning you could be robbed of those things. So, maybe your hips might hurt a little bit more this year. Well, do some things, do some stretching, maybe get an acupuncture treatment, see your chiropractor, be proactive, because those are possible trends for this year. Okay, you get the idea? That's why I'm presenting this information, is so you can make educated decisions about it. Or if you notice for you or a family member or a coworker that they're starting to have some issues, pay it forward. Share this information with them. Send them out to the video, okay? Up to the south. South is the home of the 9 fire star, but this year the 3 wood comes in. Normally wood and fire get along, but with some underlying issues this year, this is an area of arguments and misunderstandings this year. How do you use this information? Well, if you're going to have a really important discussion, especially if it could lead to maybe some type of upset or conflict, don't do it in the south. Go to one of the good directions and hold the conversation there, okay? Moving to the southwest. Southwest is home to the 2 number, but this year the 5 disaster, yellow star, comes in. 2-5 and 5-2 is one of the most challenging energies to come together, and it comes into the southwest. Southwest has to do really with everything. If you start at the breastplate and go down to the bottom of the pelvic bone, it's everything in between there. It's stomach, it's digestion, it's OBGYN, gynecological. It's really all organs, and it includes the immune system. So we're all going to be compromised this year in regards to immune system. Well, be proactive. Take your supplements. If you notice anything, get treated right away, okay? If you're sleeping in the southwest, really try to sleep somewhere else. If that's just not possible, or if you work in the southwest and you can't pick up and go to another room, in a conference room or something in another area, I'm going to give you a remedy, okay? West this year is a fantastic place to spend time. It's the home of the 7 star, but with the white fortune star coming in, that 1-7 combination is really quite powerful. It represents money. It's good for people in the entertainment industry. It's good for romance. It's good for advancement. getting recognition, and so forth. So the West is particularly a great place to spend time this year. And then we come down to the Northwest. You'll see here, I've got plus and minus on here. All right, so Northwest is normally home to the 6 metal energy. This year, the 9 fire energy comes in. Well, what does fire do to metal? It melts it. Now, I've seen what other practitioners have posted about this, and again, they're giving the, woohoo, fame and fortune and authority. I'm a risk manager, and fire melts metal, so I think there's potential for upset and conflict. But 6 represents heaven, and 9 represents fire, the other place. That combination is called fire at heaven's gate. Well, I put a plus and minus up there because I'm hoping, as the year goes along, that we do see the authority and power that some of the practitioners are saying come with this energy. I'm being more conservative about it in that fire at heaven's gate is not desirable. Well, let's look around us, all right? Well, Northwest represents management. Think of management of the country. Commander-in-chief, right? Is there support going on right now? Think of the Senate and the House. Are they cooperating with each other, or are there power struggles, which is typical with that fire at heaven's gate combination? So that's why I'm being a little bit more conservative, and I am going to provide a remedy for you, so you can take a look at that. But yeah, I'm always a fan of, take a look at the events that are happening and let that be our guide. I'd mentioned I go back 180 years in research, because history does repeat itself. So if you look back at 180 years ago, there was a lot of conflict going on, and so we're seeing some of the same conflict going on now. Even from a Chinese astrology perspective, which is 60 years ago was the last time we had an earth pig, there was a lot of challenges, and we're seeing some of those same challenges now. So, all right, jump back up here. All right, so here's what to do. So we can manage the negative so the opportunities can blossom. Now, let me first say, I avoid the word cure. I know a lot of books and a lot of practitioners say, what's the cure? Well, we don't cure energy, we negotiate with it. And I leave cures up to the medical establishment as well as individuals. I use the word remedy because when you are trying to shift the energy, there's some give and take, there's some negotiation with that, all right? So here is what we want to do about negativity coming for 2019. We'll start at the north, at the bottom, all right? So here's the north. That 1-4 combination, it is a good combination. And to kick it up a notch, as Emerald Lagasse says, bam, we're going to add a water feature. So water feature, colors blue and or black, crystal and glass. Put those in the north to beef up that good peach blossom and scholastic energy. Now, here's a catch-22 with the 1-4 combination. It is good for romance and for established couples. It could lead to maybe a little bit of temptation out there. So just be aware of that. Northeast, home of the 8, the 2 comes in, represents sickness. Let me take a drink of tea here. So what I'm recommending, number 1, take a look at the Northeast clear out the clutter and make sure there's good sunlight coming in, or add some bright lights. So we want it clean and bright. Also, with this 2-8 combination, we want some metal features. So metal, think of metallic, shiny metallic. It could be picture frames. In one case, I worked with a client. We took her weights and put them in the northeast to help with the remedy. So it doesn't mean you have to go out and spend a bunch of money unless you want to. But the colors for metal are white, and then silver, gold, brass, so forth, okay? Go to the east. Well, we have that 3 wood, the 6 flies in. Wood does chop, or metal does chop wood. So here again, a water feature. East is pretty good energy, and to really take it over that edge, a water feature. In the southeast, which is the home of the 4, and then the 7 red fighting star flies in, again, a water feature. Or blue and black, glass and crystal will help, okay? Now the south, there's not really a remedy other than if you want a meaningful conversation, don't do it in the south, take the conversation somewhere else. So just kind of be cautious of that. Also, the south has to do with the middle of the head, the middle of the body, and the middle of the torso. So eyes might be drier, or you might have eye problems. Well, use eye drops. Get your eyes checked. Heart, okay? So if you think you're having any type of issues, get in and get checked. So those are other ways to be proactive with that energy. Southwest, huge this year. Southwest represents the eldest woman, so that could be moms and grandmas. I'm going to show you a slide here in a minute. But as I said, that 2 working with 5 or 5 with 2, when those combine up, one of the most challenging energies in Feng Shui. So moving metal. Typically moving metal, you need to see it move. What it does is it chops away at that energy. And so a clock with a pendulum is first place that I go to. Also, if you have a clock, and if there's a second hand on it, even better. But if the hands themselves are white, gold, silver, then that can count as moving metal, all right? But moving metal in the Southwest, very important this year. Also, anyone who is expecting a child, do not recommend they sleep in the Southwest. In that case, really do recommend very strongly using a different bedroom. In the West, that 1-7 combination, pretty good combination. Spend some time here. Don't really need a remedy, but utilize that good energy. And then the Northwest, the fire at Heaven's Gate, the base number of 6 with the 9 fire coming in, use earth. Earth can be stone, ceramics, terracotta, square objects, flat objects. In authentic Feng Shui, we don't necessarily use crystals unless they're very appropriate for what's going on. And if you are a crystal fan, I really recommend citrine, because citrine is a good grounding stone, and this area definitely needs some grounding. Tiger's eye could be another good crystal. But crystals, color overrides composition. So if it's a rose quartz and it's pink, well, that would count as fire. Okay, don't put more fire in the Northwest, all right? I'd like to show you this. Every direction of the compass represents different family members. In business, different hierarchies of management. Represents different body parts and different functions of life. So you'll see here in the middle of this chart, these directions are all male directions represented by yang, or active energy. On the right is female energy, yin energy. And so if we look at senior, the male energy is northwest, the female energy is southwest. Well, like I said, that could be moms and grandmas, that could be dads and grandparents or grandpas, okay? So that's represented by the northwest and southwest. This year, 2019, both of those areas are challenged. In business, that is senior and executive management. In government, that is the leadership. Are we seeing conflict or are we seeing conflict? Eldest male, meaning like eldest son, is represented by the east. Eldest daughter is represented by the southeast. So the energy in the southeast this year, it's challenged, which means eldest daughters, or in business, it would be more senior management, not executive management, but senior management, they're going to be challenged, all right? Middle male, meaning middle son or middle management, represented by the north. Middle female, meaning middle female management, represented by the south. Youngest male or youngest son, youth in general, represented by the northeast. Youngest female, represented by the west. So the youngest female is supported. Youngest male is not. Okay, does that make sense? Health risks. Well, that's why I'm doing Feng Shui. I've had over 20 major surgeries, meaning general anesthesia. I've had multiple children. I have one living child. I'm literally a walking miracle. So that's what got me started in Feng Shui. I wanted to live. And so I wanted to highlight for you Northwest, all right, that's the Fired Heaven's Gate this year. Well, Northwest represents these body parts, the brain, the head, prostate, and lungs. So we may have more headaches this year. Brain, well, if you or a loved one or even a colleague maybe don't have that instant recall. It's like, oh, I'm a little foggy on this. Lighten up. You know, it's the energy of the year. And so you don't cure energy, right? You negotiate with it. So we can be easier on ourselves just to say, you know what, I know the answer to that and I know it'll come back to me, all right? So just ease up a little bit. Southwest. Southwest represents obstetrics, gynecological areas, digestion, stomach, really organs in general, and the immune system. Well, you could be, you can be a little bit proactive, maybe by doing a cleanse. You know, go see your integrative network of people, massage therapy, which really comes up for the Northeast as well, but be proactive with your body. Northeast, the 2 sickness star comes in this year. I already mentioned the musculoskeletal system. So that's, again, see your acupuncturist, your chiropractor, you know, do stretching, do warm-ups before and cool downs after an exercise regime. Do what you can, you know, to, again, be present to what's going on with your body and notice and be proactive. So I mentioned my background's in risk management, and for me, authentic Feng Shui is so much in alignment with risk management because it doesn't give you the flowery version of, you know, everything's coming up roses. It says, hey, here's some possibilities, here's some trends, and just be on the notice. And if you do notice it, well, here are some ways to be proactive. So for me, there's a direct correlation. And if you go out to my website, intuitiveconcepts.com, I have many case studies, and we'll be adding many more. But I'm working with a medical clinic right now. We're doing a renovation for that, and he's a functional medicine physician, and very much into, you know, looking at all aspects and doing a very precise diagnosis. And that's what this does. Once we look at all the numbers and we look at the trends, then we say, hey, we want a little bit more of this, but we need to manage this. So here's how we do it. So it's a very, very specific action plan. There's nothing cookie cutter about authentic Feng Shui. So I had mentioned if your birth number is a 1, 2, 5, 8, or 9, you may have some more vulnerabilities in 2019. So this is my website, intuitiveconcepts.com, and you'll notice up here we're pointing at the education tab, and then if you come down here to the personal Feng Shui calculator, it's free. If you don't know what your birth or Minghua number is, I have a free calculator out here and you can find that out. This is what the calculator looks like. So you'll see here, it does ask for hour. You don't need that for today, but it's interesting information, especially if you're doing the 4 pillars. 4 pillars means 4 data sets, which is time of birth, month, day, and year, and they all mean something. But for purposes of what I'm sharing with you now, put in your day of birth, your month of birth, your year. Now with Feng Shui, males calculate differently than females. So you need to put in your birth gender to understand what energy you were born with, okay? And then once you have that information in, you press calculate. And then you'll see here, it gives you Minghua birth number. That's the number. If that comes up as a 1, 2, 5, or 9, consider a consult, but at a minimum, consider a personal strategy session. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then I also mentioned buildings that are 1, 2, 5, 8, 9 are more vulnerable this year. There is a calculator out there for that as well. Let me back up here. So you'll see here, building Feng Shui calculator. You can go out and put in that information and find out if you're in a building that is a 1, 2, 5, 8, or 9. Okay. So we go back to the elements. All right. Well, why? Why, if my birth number is a 1, why does it make me more vulnerable? Great question, because somebody asked that. 1 represents water, and this is an 8 earth year. Well, you'll see here it skipped over something. When it skips over, that means imbalance. In this case, the 8 earth blocks water, okay? That's why it's more vulnerable. Then 2, 5, and 8, well, they're magnified, given more energy in an 8 year, and that's not necessarily a good thing, so that's why they're more vulnerable. And then I mentioned the number 5, or I'm sorry, the number 9, which is fire, and earth, see how these, go clockwise? Well, earth now goes counterclockwise to fire, which means it's taking some of its energy. So that's why 1, 2, 5, 8, and 9 people and buildings are more vulnerable in 2019. Now we're going to switch to Chinese astrology. So if you don't know what your Chinese astrology is, we have a free calculator for that too. You go out to intuitiveconcepts.com, still go to the education tab, and then on the lower left is the Chinese astrology calculator. Select read more, and this is the screen you will see. Again, we don't need the hour for today, but you want to know your day, month, and year of birth, and then press calculate. Now, in Chinese astrology, it doesn't get into male or female. That's Feng Shui. But find out what your Chinese astrology is for this year. Well, your Chinese astrology for you, period. And then we'll look at what it does this year. So today we're concentrating on the year. What is your Chinese astrology sign year? Okay. Now, 2019 happens to be the Earth Pig. Well, the pig's natural stem or natural element is water. Well, in an Earth cycle, Earth blocks water. So it means it's a muddy pig, okay? Which means we're going to experience the more negative aspects of the pig's personality. 12 Chinese astrology signs. We all have our happiness, our traits when we're doing well, when we're balanced, and we all have our traits when we're not doing well and we are experiencing imbalance. Well, this year is an imbalance for the pig. And those negative traits include being reserved, being naive, excitable, scheming, selfish, secretive, unrealistic. Bing, 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 bing. What's going on in our government right now? Oh, goodness. So this is the year of the pig. And I like this chart because I call this the buddy groups. You'll see here the yellow triangle, okay? It goes from the pig down to the sheep, also known as the ram or the goat, and then up here to the rabbit. Well, pigs, sheeps, and rabbits, they normally get along really well right from the get-go. So if you're a pig, you know, a rabbit would be a good friend, okay? Sheep, typically a good friend. So find what your Chinese astrology sign is. Come out here and look at your triangle. And it's people whose Chinese astrology is those signs that you'll naturally get along with, in most cases. And then here's the opposite. So you'll see the pig, and if you come straight across there, the pig's opposite is the snake. Well, I grew up in the country and near water, and there used to be copperheads that would come downstream, and the farmers would bring in the pigs, and the pigs would wipe them out. So it's interesting when you really get to know this and you start looking at it, and it's like, oh, that's what people did all along. Well, that makes sense. I even worked with like the Farmers Association, and they were talking about the Farmers Almanac and how this aligns really well with it. And on the flip side, if you look at the pig, its most compatible sign is the tiger. And so in the zoos, when the tigers have cubs and one of them doesn't make it, a lot of times they'll bring in a piglet. So they get along really well. Now, a lot of people make the assumption, which is why a lot of the stuff you see out on the internet and on YouTube says, oh, it's a pig year, and ooh, it's, you know, fabulous kind of thing. Well, if you're a pig Chinese astrology sign, or a boar, B-O-A-R, this being a pig year, it's not necessarily everything's coming up roses. Normally, when it's our sign that year, it's a time of learning and opportunities. So keep that in mind. Now, I looked at the 12 Chinese astrology signs, and so it's a lot more complicated than, you know, your buddy group. You look at the stars that are good, that are coming in. You look at the stars that are challenging, that are coming in, and so I've ranked them here for us. So 1 means best supported in 2019, and 12 means least supported. So you'll see here on the chart, horse, most supported, 2nd is monkey, 3rd is tiger, 4th is rabbit, 5th is rat, 6th is dragon. So those 6 Chinese astrology signs are in the most supported category. Then we get into not as supported. The 7th is sheep, 8th on the list is pig, 9 is dog, 10 is ox, 11 is snake. Now remember, snake is the opposite of the pig, but in this case, the rooster is the least supported of the 12 Chinese astrology signs. So I hope that gives you some insight. Now, I know that we're not live, but I've done this session a couple times, and some questions have come up. So I'd like to share with you what those are. One person asked, how does this relate to the Bagua? Well, the Bagua is the 8-sided, which represents the 8 directions, but they use it more like life stations. They meaning Western Feng Shui practitioners. And so in their relationship area, they'll say put red, pinks, and purples, and rose quartz, and so forth. And in the wealth corner, use bamboo and use plants. Well, if you overlay that with what we just talked about, you didn't see anywhere on that remedy chart to use fire. You didn't see anywhere on that chart to use plants. So it doesn't exactly line up. And do what you're comfortable with. And I'm so happy that anybody does any type of Feng Shui. And for my life, my experience, authentic Feng Shui, once you do the analysis, and just like with the apartment complex out west, I mean, you can tell the energy. So the numbers told us that there was going to be violence energy, and it would involve guns and or knives. And then the timing star told us, hey, it's activating like now. So I find this very, very detailed, and I've had a lot of success with it. I've worked with dozens of people who were diagnosed terminal, and when we did the Feng Shui, they've gone into full remission with quality of lives. And some of that is on my website, intuitiveconcepts.com. Go out and read some of the case studies. So, and like I said, I'll continue to add those. And clients have come back and said what they notice is when they help their home and or office building to feel better. Huh? Buildings feel? Well, you know what? This desk isn't just a chunk of wood. It's resonating molecules of energy. Our bodies are resonating molecules of energy. Rocks are resonating molecules of energy. So when you are able to diagnose the energy of a building and help it to feel better, it thanks the people inside. And it literally has been life transforming for so many people. Another question, do you change cures every year? Not a fan of using the word cure. Leave that up to the medical establishment and to individual people. And do I change remedies? So for me, there's two answers to that. When I work with a client, first of all, I give them a strategic plan. In other words, do these things in these areas, and it's going to help the building to feel better, all right? And then because the energy changes every year, you know, last year was a 9 fire, this year is an 8 earth, next year is a 7 metal. Well, the energy changes, and we need to respond to that, right, in order to keep us feeling better and help our buildings to feel better. And so, yes, I do take the effort to transition and make recommendations and do remedies every year. I mean, if you look at 2018's video, you'll see the recommendations were different than what they are for this year, all right? And clients know there's a lot more to this. And what you're getting today is better than nothing at all, okay? The other thing is, when part 2 of this question that she asked was, you know, there are practitioners out there that they'll sell you a monthly subscription, and then you take your red string with coins on it, you'll move it, or you take your dragon statue and you'll move it, or you take a vase, or you take a water bowl, salt water, you know. The thing is, those are not profound enough to really shift the energy in a way that it needs. Because one of the things with authentic Feng Shui is you need to get the different directions, the different energies communicating with each other. And something like a trinket or a statue just isn't strong enough to do that. Another question that came up was, what is Donald Trump's energy with all of this? Well, I'm going to start with talking about 2018 first, because 2018 was a 9 fire year. And Trump, based on his birthday, is a 9 fire person. So a 9 fire person and a 9 fire year doubles up. Not a good thing. And his Chinese astrology, he is the fire dog. Well, the fire, okay, so 9 fire year, he's a fire person, and his Chinese astrology is fire dog. Well, you know how we like to sit around the campfire and everybody likes to talk and, you know, put our feet up against it and kind of warm up. Well, with that triple fire, somebody just put gas on it. It went poof. So temper, not being able to control it, being verbal about it, Twitter feed, So anyway, and even if I didn't know who this was about, I would say the same things. And the fact that he, from his Chinese astrology perspective, has fire and the dog is earth, fire, that's actually a good balance. But that would tell me that whoever has this combination has a very, very healthy confidence level and is kind of full of themselves. So I'll leave it there. Make your own conclusion. So next steps, consider a consult for your home, consider a consult for your office. And if you're not ready for something as extensive as a consult, consider a personal strategy session. Now, when I work with clients, we actually have two approaches. We have a Kickstart program, which is usually for people who rent or lease a space, and that is a small package with the smaller fee. And then the Mastery, which is the whole kit and caboodle, actually evolves over the course of a year or more. I actually work with the client. They have unlimited access to me for a full year or more. And so just to give you a high level, it's kind of how we approach it. Whereas a personal strategy session, it's a phone call. I get your birth information up front. I do lots of analysis around that. And we have a phone call, and people always go away, look on the blog, testimonies that we've got, and you're like, my gosh, there's so much information. And it gives you good insight and strategies to plan for the year. Those are very inexpensive and absolutely worth it. Here's my contact information, intuitiveconcepts.com. Now, in addition to doing this yearly video, I have started for the first time doing a monthly insight. And so if you go out to the website, you can sign up and get these automatically. So we've already posted the one for the month of February. There was one email, or not email, but there was one post about Feng Shui energy for the month of February. And then there is Chinese astrology for the month of February. So it's insights positive, insights not so positive, and oftentimes I'll include a remedy. Do this in this section to help you with that. So go out and take a look at those, and if you like the information, sign up for it and it'll be sent to you automatically. I am on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course this is YouTube, so I hope you'll subscribe to the YouTube channel. I have a couple videos ready to go up. One of them is about Feng Shui for labs and classrooms, and the other video is actually a property that was haunted, and we were able to make a difference using Feng Shui and earth acupuncture, which addresses geopathic stress. So, for the year of 2019, manage your environment consciously or unconsciously. It manages you. May you be exceedingly, generously, and joyfully blessed for 2019. Thanks for being here, and subscribe to YouTube and on Facebook. Intuitive Concepts has a page, and I post tips on that all the time. If you would like to get those, go out and like it, and you'll get them automatically. Thanks a lot. Bye.